Story time.
This is my dad. In 2018, he was told that he had stomach cancer that had metastasized to his liver and he only had a few months to live. Thank goodness it was later found out that it was instead a liver infection, giving him a way better chance of living. They removed the stomach cancer and after many painful months and almost losing 100 pounds, the liver infection was gone. He just started getting better when he bumped his head while working at a shop, and because of his chemo medication that thinned out his blood, his head bump caused bleeding in his brain. Over the next several months, he not only had another brain bleed, but 4 altogether. Thankfully today, he is off his medication and there are no signs of cancer, but this whole experience has reminded me how fragile our lives really are and how quickly our loved ones can leave us. So it got me thinking. This is my parents' jungle, or what most people would call a backyard. It has remained in this condition basically my whole life and has never really been a place where my family, consisting of my 4 brothers, 3 sisters, and 26 nieces and nephews, can spend time to hang out. So I decided enough is enough, and I'm turning this into a place where we can make good memories with the time we have left with my parents. So if we cleared out the squatters, get out of here. Maybe next time pay your rent, you flea bags. So first thing we have to do is cut down all this tall grass. We made the mistake of letting our son play in it and still haven't been able to find him. Just kidding, we put out a popsicle and lured him back to safety. Cutting the grass would be hard because there was a ton of debris needing to be cleared out before we could use a weed whacker and a mower. There were lots of branches, garbage, and the occasional tire. Because what's a backyard if it doesn't have a few spare tires? Am I right? Once we got everything cleaned out, it was time to cut the grass. So say hello to my little friend, which didn't work, so I had to use my dad's weed whacker instead. After a few pulls, it fired right up and we were good to go. After I whacked the grass and got it short enough, I went over it with a push lawnmower. And finally, I finished off the exorcist of this demon grass. Unfortunately, this is only a dent because we still need to take down this tree, get rid of this wood pile, tear down the storage tent, and tear out the shed. This looks pretty overwhelming, not gonna lie, but it's all about taking it one day at a time. The next thing standing in our way was this pine tree that is diseased and dying, and it needed to be cut down. But before we do that, I wanted to clear away this firewood pile at the base of the tree. I was sad because I spent hours of chopping this wood by hand when I was in high school, hoping to have fun bonfires with my friends. And just like my left hand, those dreams were blown to pieces. Okay, maybe a little too soon. Once the wood pile was cleared out, it was time to fire up the machine I call Big Bertha. This is a boom man lift used for de-icing planes. My dad bought it in 2004, intending to use it to build a second story on their house. We were using it 2 years ago to cut some trees down in the backyard when it stopped working, and Bertha has laid here ever since. We tried to fire it up, but it was a no-go, so my dad opened up the control panel and started poking at the wires, which looked to me like he was trying to defuse a nuke. Like, what the heck even? And finally, he got it to work.
It's alive!
But unfortunately, since it sat for so long, it has sunk into the ground, and since this thing weighs over 14,000 pounds, we are in a bit of a pickle. So we attached an 8,000-pound winch to the back of the truck and hooked it up to Big Bertha with a pulley for mechanical advantage. The strategy we were going with was that my dad would drive Big Bertha while I operated the winch. Things were looking promising until the weight of Bertha and the winch started pulling the truck across the ground. So we threw it in a 4-wheel drive, put on the parking brake, and it was solid. After some sketchy noises, we finally got Big Bertha free and moved her into position to cut down the tree. Sheesh! Look at those ruts she left. Ooh-wee. My brother cut down the tree while I loaded the branches and hauled them to the dump. This part is always my favorite. Oh, and this part. Unfortunately, the tree was a bit too big to move by hand, but thank goodness for Big Bertha, who we can just use as a crane. It's quite the difference with the tree gone. It has really opened things up. It's looking pretty awesome, but it's time to tie in and get rid of this pile of wood. It's a pile of finishing wood that my dad had intended to use to finish the inside of their house. This has honestly been like this for over 10 years. So it's time to open it up. It's like Christmas. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was really timid peeling back the layers on this thing because I knew stray cats love to use this pile of wood as their home. I felt that I might disturb something and have a cat with rabies come flying out of my face. So I was very cautious. This was super cool. These ants had built an anthill in between the sheets of metal, and when I separated them, it basically cut the anthill in half. You could see their tunnels and everything. So I worked away peeling back the tarps and metal to reveal the wood underneath. Not gonna lie, seeing this got me a little bit nervous. Now you might ask, why is this wood so special that it would sit in their backyard for over 10 years? It's actually really expensive oak and mahogany. It's also a special type of wood called finishing wood, meaning it has no knots in it. Unfortunately, my dad got too busy doing other things and never got around to using all of it, so we're gonna move this wood pile to my brother's shop. And boy, oh boy, have we got a freaking ton to move. I had to clear all the way around to get access to the whole wood pile to make it easier for moving. Man, I love me a clean before and after picture. So the system we had down is that I would load the wood onto the rack on my dad's truck and then drive over to my brother's shop and pile it in a nice organized pile there. We would repeat this until it was all gone. Now while doing this, we found some interesting things. You know something's been there a while when you literally have a tree growing through it. Also, I found this thing which looks like a pot with some spikes and a really long handle. Apparently my dad made it for picking apples. I mean, who needs a ladder when you got one of these? Anyways, after a few trips to the dump, it was back to hauling wood. The never-ending freaking pile of wood. I mean, it seemed to go on forever, but finally we got down to the end. The only problem was that these are massive beams, and I knew that if I tried to lift them by myself, I would regret it, especially since I didn't wear my brown colored shorts. But I was all alone, and I didn't want to wait for help, so screw it. I'm taking this on single-handedly. Thankfully, my wife showed up because, yeah, there was no way that I was getting these on here by myself. So she would lift in the back end while I pulled it up onto the truck, and I was sweating my butt off. I mean, look at my hat. Nasty. Anyways, after the wood was gone, I raked it all up, and look at that, ladies and gentlemen. So satisfying. I would consider this yard to be halfway there. Anyways, after some much needed celebration, it was on to the next thing. And for us, it's cleaning up whatever this pile is from behind this treehouse cabin. First, we needed to clean up these trees a bit. My dad put up this barrier so kids wouldn't walk through here and get lost in what I can only describe as the jungles of Jumanji. So I went to town with my chainsaw and cleared things up. Except I cut down this tree and trapped myself like a proper idiot would. Frick's sakes! Next, my wife and I haul-awayed the garbage and found this awesome jacuzzi tub. Aw, yeah, this is the life. If only it hadn't been sitting here for almost 15 years and didn't smell like the spray from 1,000 cats. Ew, nasty. All right, it's finally time to take off the tarps and see what's underneath. And honestly, I am excited because I can't remember what's under here. It's been over 20 years since this has been uncovered. 1, 2, 3, and are you serious? More freaking wood! Frick's sakes! Well, this was a bit of a letdown. This is more of that hardwood that my dad was planning on using for the inside of the house. Unfortunately, because it has sat here for so long, the majority of it was rotten and no good. So we sorted it into 3 piles, one for the dump, one for firewood, and one for usable wood. My wife and I sorted and sorted until finally it was gone. And look at the difference. This honestly has been here almost my entire life, and it feels so good to have it gone. So of course, it's time to celebrate. Yeah, my wife wasn't getting in on any of that.
No, I'm okay.
After celebrating, it was time to move on to the part I was most excited to get rid of, and that is this decrepit eyesore of a storage tent. My dad put this tent up for temporary storage, except he got overwhelmed with projects over the years, and what was supposed to be temporary turned into long-term, and eventually it rotted away and fell into ruin. So it's time to go through it and see what treasure there is to find. So first we had to clean up the debris around the tent to gain better access. So I started pulling out all the garbage and all the scrap metal that was intertwined with the overgrown weeds. Once it was all gone, I went to town with the rake and made sure all of the smaller debris was cleaned up, which was important because I was gonna bust out the mower. And apparently just mowed the dirt, because this was fun. Not, but it was worth it because now it was finally clean. Ah, that's nice. That's real nice. And then the next day, my wife and I started raking up in front of the tent so I could mow the grass here, and we found some cool stuff in the grass. And by cool, I actually mean freaky, because what the frick is this? Be gone, Satan! It was time to start uncovering the tent and looking at the treasures within. Now, unfortunately, my dad used about 1 million. Sorry, that was an exaggeration. 2 million staples to hold up the tarp to the frame. A sawzall or chainsaw would get wrecked trying to cut away the tarps because they were full of wires, so I used one of the most common household items, and that is the machete, because everyone has one, right? Well, in Colombia. Yeah, I know I live in Canada, whatever. After much chopping and pulling, I finally get one side uncovered. I decided to do the same coming in from the front, and I could feel the excitement in the air. For under these tarps was sure to be a treasure that has never been seen unto the likes of mankind. And for the first time in years, this trove of insurmountable loot would change my family's fortune for decades to come! Ha ha! And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the moment when you witness our rise among the rich, the wealthy, and the elite of society. And we have some garbage. And some old canned beans, which is also garbage. But surely there must be treasure somewhere under here, so we must keep digging. And keep digging. and keep digging. Unfortunately, there was nothing of real value to be found. Most, if not all, the stuff had been weathered away, although there were definitely some interesting finds, like all these exit signs and electric motors, because why not? Also, this cool wooden water wheel decoration my dad built when I was a kid, and these bathroom tiles that were inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, what the heck? But honestly, so many bathroom tiles. My dad is the kind of guy where if he sees something on sale or a good deal, he can't refuse, even if it's enough tiles to fill an entire trailer. But what really stood out to me were these 7 metal boxes. Why would someone store stuff in a metal protected box if it wasn't valuable, you know what I'm saying? And this pirate loves his treasure. So it's time to open them up, so here we go. First one is bike parts. Okay, there's always gotta be a decoy chest, right? Okay, second one is bike seats. Who puts old bike seats in a metal box? Okay, number 3 was heavy, so it's gotta be treasure. And gee, no freaking scrap metal. Unbelievable. All right, next we have a hydraulic ram. Okay, some value there. This one was also heavy, so random gears and chains. What the heck? I am losing faith. This chest, of course, has random parts to a generator that no longer works, because why not? Okay, last one. Here we go. Show me the money! Curtain pulleys? Why the freak would you stash curtain pulleys in a metal bin to make it look more valuable? Come on! This pirate wants his treasure! Well, that was disappointing, not gonna lie, but there's still a ton of stuff to go through. We found a huge stash of pink cotton candy that we'll be saving for my son's birthday, boxes of old printer paper, and an awesome gas mask. There was a really old electric fan, which was cool, but unfortunately beyond repair. Honestly, it was mostly all scrap metal that we ended up taking to the dump. In all seriousness, this was actually sad to see. My dad had spent all these years and money collecting stuff, and now to see it all go to waste was heartbreaking, not only for me, but I'm sure it was for my father as well. After going through this entire tent, this is the small pile of stuff that was worth keeping. Not a whole lot, unfortunately. But finally, after a few days of sorting and taking loads to the dump, this storage tent that has been here most of my life is now gone. And I can't tell you how good it feels to see it gone. But we still have lots to do, because now we have to go through this shed, which hasn't been touched in over 15 years. And it is full, and I mean full of potential treasure. The only problem is this door hasn't been opened any wider than this for almost 10 years, and I was terrified. I did not want to put my head in there, because who knows what demon monster is lurking behind the door. I was freaking terrified, but I knew it had to be open. So 1, 2, 3. Once I got up the courage and looked inside, it reminded me of that movie Arachnophobia. You know, the movie where this happens. I freaking hate spiders. They are creepy, and this little dude does not help. I'm sorry. Now, there was a ton of mice crap, and it is important that you wear a respirator because mouse feces can cause serious disease. So I'm standing here being a wuss because I don't want to go in there and start moving stuff only to have something like this happen. I'm freaked out, okay? But of course, my dad saunters in like no big deal, so I knew I had to suck it up and go in. There was a lot of random stuff, like these old water skis. There was a desk that was unfortunately garbage. Then we found these chests, which got this pirate excited. So tune in to part 2, where we reveal the treasures within.